in this video I'm going to be talking to you about the book of Job. So the book of Job is one of those which is, when I first read it I was like, what on earth, this is, why would you do this? But the more I read it, the more I meditate it, the more I kind of understand it, and the more I feel that everyone should read it, because for me I feel that it kind of answers questions of when things happen, like misfortune things happen. Basically, I'll explain it as we get later into this video. So the one question I will be answering is, why did God allow Satan to do what he did to Job's life? So to do a summarize of the story, so basically Job is perfect in God's eye. And then for whatever reason, one day Satan managed to get into the presence of God and basically says, again, summarising, he's only following you because you give him such a good life and everything like that. So for whatever reason, God is like, fine, you can do whatever you want, but do not touch his life. And I need to quote this because this will make even more sense when it comes to explanation and stuff. But it's in verse 9, chapter 1, where it says, not verse 9, verse 12, where it says, the Lord said to Satan, very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. And basically still saying that God's still in charge. So yeah, do not touch him. You can touch whatever you want in his life and stuff, give him his fortune, but do not touch his soul. So anyway, and obviously this happens, and poor Job, he, during this time, I said I'm not going to go into detail, he's kind of battling his faith, but he doesn't understand and stuff like that. So why did God do this? So when God does things, he doesn't do them to hurt you, he doesn't do it necessarily to punish you. It's more to for this reason he did it to Job, because he hoped that it would actually give more strength in his faith in him, which in the end it does, when God in the end actually comes to Job, because Job at this point, he's just crying out to the Lord and saying, why is this happening? And that's when literally God just starts to list, do you know how all these things work, basically different things that work in the universe. And that's when Job realizes, and he basically repents and says, I'm sorry for questioning you and stuff like that. So that's another question, as to why didn't God just come out and say what happened, instead of just spurling out all this about the universe and stuff, which confuses Job even more. But then he ends up coming to the realization that things happen, and just trust in the Lord. So the number one reason, as I said, the whole main thing of the story is just the trust. You could be going through anything, but trust all the way through. So if that's just things can happen, it could just be like, it could just be life, it could just be a trial, it could even be a trial from God. Can I just pray that no one goes through a trial like Job did, because that is just, anyway. Where was I? So it could be a trial, it could even just be an enemy attack, spiritual warfare. But the whole idea is to trust, and to always trust in God, and have faith that you will come out of it in the end. The second reason is more complicated. It's more complicated than you actually think. So basically, as I said before, that there's many different reasons it's just someone's downfall. And the fact that when God does then come to Job and lists all the different things, like, do you know how this works, you know how that works, he's trying to make a point that it's too complicated for us to understand, and that's not the main message. Like, you shouldn't think about well, you kind of should slightly, but you shouldn't focus on the reasons why it's happening. You should just trust, and that's like the main, as I said, that's like the main passage and stuff. And it's like in life and stuff, like things can happen and you sort of question why has that happened. But the problem is, when you get into like this loophole as to why that's happened, then you kind of stuck in a hole. But if you focus on Christ and believe that, and trust in him, why this is happening, and just instead of focus on why this is happening, just trust in him, and that you will come out of it. But yeah, the whole message of the book of Job is to trust, and I feel it's so relatable these days, especially for like people like who are, you know, currently like going through trials. Obviously, praying that your trial will never be like Job, because that's insane. But that's kind of an example of a trial that God puts through Job, and I think it's just a great like book to meditate on, meditate, and just to remind you that, you know, things will happen, but you know, just stay in faith and everything will be okay. So the next video I'm gonna do, which is more of kind of a simple kind of thing, because if you're like a Christian, you will understand. Like, if you understand the afterlife and God's judgment, you kind of get it's not necessarily like it's a bad thing. Basically, it's when God basically um kills David's son. I know that's a harsh word to say, kill, but you know, for the purpose of people to like watch out what people think, because obviously, if you know the whole thing of judgment, it's not as like harsh as such if you think about it. But yeah, that's the next topic I'll be doing.